I cannot, and I am not going back to a church because you want me to go back to a church or because you would feel more comfortable with what I'm doing if I'm going to a church service on Sunday.
Cute, but dumb. Cute, but stupid.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of For the One Podcast. I'm your host, Nicole. I am so glad that you're tuning in. If this is your first time joining, welcome. And if not, welcome back. We are going to start off like we do every week with what is bringing me joy this week, which I'm not going to lie, right before we started rolling, I had to stop and think about it because I was like, a lot has happened. What is bringing me joy? Honestly, I would say, I know I touched on it in the last episode, and I'm sure I will talk about it more in future episodes, but I did do a fast last week. And so honestly, what is bringing me joy is just food this week. The fact, of just having like a normal routine of eating, and I can eat when I'm hungry and I can get a snack. Very grateful for food. So what is bringing me joy this week is food, and that I am very blessed to, have food and have a fridge to keep it cold and all the things, because I think sometimes even we take that for granted. There was like a really weird storm situation that happened. It was almost a year ago from when I'm recording this. It was last August, and there was like tornadoes that touched down here in the Cleveland area. I think there was like multiple. I think there was like 3 or 4 in one day. A bunch of people were without power. I was personally without power for a week. And so I didn't have a refrigerator for a week. So I even have like flashbacks to like that time and just how inconvenient, how like, spoiled we are here. And like we just take like small things like having a refrigerator and access to just like keeping our food cold and fresh for granted. So honestly, I would say that whole thing is what I'm just grateful for. What's bringing me joy this week is food, and the fact that, like, again, I have food, I have, my basic needs taken care of, and on top of that, I have electricity and a fridge that can keep it cold and keep it, preserved for a couple days. So, that's what's bringing me joy this week is food. Hey guys, we'll be right back to the episode in just a moment, but first I want to tell you about an offer that I have for something called Primal Queen. It is a company made by a woman for women, and if you are a girly like me with something like PCOS, where you have imbalanced hormones, weird things with your cycle, low energy, unstable moods, Primal Queen has been shown to help so many women with all of those symptoms. Primal Queen is a supplement that is packed with vitamins and nutrients from beef organs. If you're like me, you're not going to be cooking up and serving liver on a random Tuesday for dinner. So if you want all of the benefits of eating organ meat, but you don't want to actually eat it, Primal Queen is the answer for you. So if you click the link in my description, you will get 25% off your first order of a starter kit of Primal Queen. It's a 30-day supply, and within the first couple weeks, you should be starting to notice things like improvement in your mood and improvement in your energy levels, and even starting to notice changes in your hormone balances. So if you would like to try this for yourself, again, that is 25% off if you use the link in my description for Primal Queen today. Now back to the episode. All right, what are we getting into today? Guys, I said this a couple episodes ago. Girl dinner podcast right here, okay? We're going to probably be hitting a couple different things because it's been a heck of a week. I don't even remember what I fully talked about the last time I recorded. I don't even know the last day I recorded. That's how much life has happened in a short amount of time. Oh, wait. I did record. It was a week ago today that I recorded the last episode. Don't ask me what I talked about because I don't remember. I think people don't understand that when I am like public speaking, quote unquote, whether it's like doing this podcast or, I've like taught, a couple like teachings before, like messages. I've, led like a couple things. I've had like various experiences public speaking. Every single time I do, I kind of go, like my brain just kind of goes black. Like I don't really no, like I know what I'm saying, but like don't ask me to recall to you what I just said because I don't really know what I just said type of thing. It's very hard for me to recall. And it's so funny because every week that my producer and editor, Sean, will send me like the podcast that is getting posted for the week. It's like Christmas morning. You know, I'm like, he uploads the video for me to like, you know, double check and everything. And I'm like, what? Oh, yeah. Like, what did I talk about? It's like I'm hearing it for the first time, basically, because I'm like, first of all, I recorded it basically a month ago because we're about a month ahead in recordings. So this is like recorded 4 weeks in advance to when you guys are going to get it publicly. So it's like, oh, yeah, I recorded this 4 weeks ago. So not only has a lot of life happened in 4 weeks, I don't know what I talked about, but my mind just kind of goes blank when I start talking. So don't ask me. I don't know. I'm like, I don't know. But all that to say, yeah, see, my mind just went totally blank on what I was saying. A lot of life has happened. So it was 4th of July weekend. Yeah, again, we'll probably get into this more heavily on a different episode in the future. I know I say that about a lot of things, but it's like, you guys have to understand it's like a lot of life is happening, and it's like some things like today, I think I'm going to talk about some things that I'm like actively in the moment walking through and having feelings about and dealing with, whereas other things I want to have a more like processed kind of viewpoint and kind of come out of some things a little bit before I talk about them, if that makes sense. I think that there's validity in both. I think there's like authenticity in both. And so I did fast last week. I will get more into that at some point. Well, actually today we're going to touch on it a little bit, but that was last week, which just felt like 3 really long days. I'm not going to lie. It's so funny because Jackie Hill Perry, I remember she was talking to her and her husband, Preston, were talking about fasting at the beginning of this year. And she was like, long are the days, Lord. And I was like, I now get what Jackie means. Because she was like, I was going to bed at like 7 o'clock. She's like, I can't eat. I'm going to sleep. And I was like, you know what? I feel that. It was crazy because the first day of the fast especially, it was like, how is it only 1 o'clock? Like most days I'm like, oh my gosh, it's 1 o'clock already, or oh my gosh, it's 3 o'clock already. That first day especially, I was just like, long are the days, Lord. Like, why is this day so long? But I will talk more about like fasting and stuff, a different episode. But yeah, I fasted last week, and then it was 4th of July. We kind of do an annual like cookout, shoot guns at my parents' house. Sorry if you don't like guns, if that's not your thing. Doesn't have to be your thing, but that's what we do. And that's part of celebrating our freedom as Americans, I guess. So, yeah, shot some guns, had a cookout, had some friends and family over. It was like a really good day, really hot, but beautiful weather. And it was just a good time. What I want to say about this is not even so much the experience of like the cookout or anything, but so one of my friends, because it was my birthday the weekend prior. Oh, that's what I talked about last episode. My birthday. See, it's coming back to me now. It was my birthday weekend prior. One of our friends, who I didn't see that weekend, she brought me, this orchid plant, and it's so beautiful. Like one of the most beautiful flowers I've ever seen. I've always like loved orchids. I've always thought that they were pretty, but they're just like this really beautiful, like fuchsia, like pinkish purple color, a beautiful plant. What she doesn't know about me, because she's kind of like newer to the friend group. She was like a friend of one of our friends, and now she's like kind of coming around more, and I love having her. She's such a sweetheart. And she brings me this plant. She's like, happy birthday. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is so sweet and thoughtful of you. What you don't know about me, though, is that I am a plant murderer. I cannot keep plants. I kill them. I try my hardest, guys. I've killed a cactus, okay? Like, that's how you know how bad this is. Like, cactuses are not supposed to be easily killed by a person. Like, they can survive however long without water. And I still somehow managed to kill one a couple years ago. So I do not have a green thumb as much as I would like to. I don't really know a lot about plants. I don't know how to really care for them. I know there's all this stuff about soil and watering and certain sunlights and certain plants need repotted and like at different stages you got to get it into a bigger pot. I'm like, this is all too much for me. Like, you've already surpassed like my knowledge is like here, and you are speaking like a foreign language to me, trying to explain to me how to take care of plants. So I don't have a green thumb, and she gets me this orchid, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, it's so pretty. I'm so scared I'm gonna kill it. Like, I'm so scared I'm going to walk in, in a couple weeks and this thing's going to be like dilapidated and dead and just have lost all of its beauty, and I'm going to feel so bad. And I was talking to, let me back up. So I read the tag on it. It was like a day or two later, I read the tag that was on the plant, and it literally says in like big letters on this tag from the company that's selling the orchid. It just says add 3 ice cubes once a week. And then on the back of the tag, it says basically this is equivalent to 1/4 of a cup of water, and it actually doesn't do good in direct sunlight. Like, keep it which is perfect because our apartment only has windows that face north. So like we can't get direct sunlight either, which is how I killed another plant that Aaron had gotten me as a gift a couple months ago. But that was not my fault because that plant directly said that it needed direct sunlight, and we don't have direct sunlight. Okay, so that one's not on me. It wasn't going to have a chance anyway. So just saying. But the orchid, so I'm like, oh, that's perfect for the apartment because we don't get direct sunlight anyway. So that's good. Now this whole watering thing, I was like, I've never heard before about putting ice cubes on a plant. Again, I'm not a plant person. So I'm like, I've never heard of this, but I'm like, okay, if the tag is telling me to do this and it's going to survive and be a living plant and do well, this is what I'll do. 3 ice cubes a week. I was like, I can handle that. I just have to remember, but I'm like, 3 ice cubes a week, I can do that. And so then I was on the phone with Becca, like a couple days after that, and I'm like talking to her. I'm like, oh yeah, like, and she brought me this like orchid, and it's beautiful. I'm like telling her about it, and before I even say anything, and Becca knows me. Like, Becca, she lived with me for 7 years. She knows like I am not a plant person. She was there when I killed the cactus in our old apartment. Like, she knows how deep my green thumb does not run. So if anybody understands, it's her. So I don't even say anything about caring for the orchid, what the tag said. And she immediately goes like, she's like, well, she's like, well, don't just like put like the ice cubes in it. Like, that's not good for it. And I was like, what do you mean? What do you mean it's not good for it? I said, the tag said 3 ice cubes once a week. What do you mean? I said, Becca, are you telling me that Big Orchid is lying to me? Is Big Orchid lying because they want to sell more orchids, so they're trying to get me to kill this one? This is like the story. It reminds me. I'm sorry, Mom, and I'm sorry, Grandma. May you rest in peace. I'm gonna have to put Grandma on blast here, Mom, because my mom's mom, when she was a kid. Now this wasn't a plant, but my grandma was so against like any animal or any like pet in the household. So my mom never had dogs, never had cats, anything growing up. The only thing my mom was ever allowed to have was like fish, like goldfish in a bowl. And then my grandma tells my mom when she's young, like a small child at one point, like, oh, like it's so fun. Like if you take a straw and like blow bubbles in the fish bowl. My mom's like, a kid, she's like, okay, she just like goes and does it. Well, like my grandma basically told my mom that, and my mom murdered her own fish because you can't do that. Like the CO2 that we like breathe out when we like exhale like in the water like that, like it kills the fish. I'm not a science person. Don't ask me everything surrounding that, but I'm like, yes, that sounds about right. Like that you can't do that. And I'm sure if you look it up, this is a scientifically accurate statement, that it will kill the fish if you blow into the water into the fishbowl. So my grandma basically set my mom up to be a hitman on her own fish. And so this is reminding me of that, where I'm like, are you telling me that Big Orchid is lying so that I kill this orchid so that then I go out and buy another one? Come on. I'm like, come on, Big Orchid. Like, we're better than, I was so mad. I was like, Becca, you've got to be kidding me. Because, see, I get really frustrated because I'm like, if you give me a product and you tell me, you give me a whole tag of how to take care of it. That's like if I buy a shirt and it has wash instructions on it and I do everything that the tag tells me to do, but the shirt still gets like shrunk or it discolors or it, like starts to like unravel at the threads or something. Like, I'm like, this is BS because you told me to take care of it this way. If I follow the instructions, it better be like this. I'm very much like a rule follower. Like, tell me what to do and I'll do it and we're going to be good. I just need to know what to do, right? This is very much like hitting me right now as me and my like faith walk with the Lord. And I'm always like, just tell me what to do and I'll do it. And we're going to get into that in a minute. And I'm like, okay, just tell me what to do and I'll do it. And then I get frustrated when I like don't have like an exact, care instructions, so to speak. But going back to Big Orchid, I was like, are you telling me they're lying to me? So Becca does some research. There's multiple articles online that are like, don't give it an ice cube, something about like it's not good for the root system. But I found out through her research that the reason that they tell you to do a ice cube or multiple ice cubes is because orchids actually do best with water like slowly entering the root system. They don't do well like if you just like pour a fourth of a cup of water basically all at once. Like it likes to like slowly absorb. So that's why, with an ice cube, obviously it very slowly melts and it's able to absorb into the root system. I'm like, I'm learning so much already. So that's why they tell you to do ice cubes for the average Joe like me, who is not a plant person, who is not like a greenhouse, extraordinaire, and I don't have a green thumb, and I would probably kill this thing by overwatering it, not even in quantity, but in the quickness. So all this to say, I basically she does this research, and there's multiple articles that are like, don't do the ice cubes. But then there was an Ohio State study, sorry, I have to say that because I'm from Ohio. I just feel obligated. But there was an Ohio State study where apparently they did an experiment on this where they, tested it, and their conclusion was that there was no like adverse effects on orchids that got ice cubes versus orchids that were watered in like different ways. And so I'm like, so she's like, okay, you know what? Maybe like it's a falsity. Like maybe there was just these articles saying don't like use ice cubes, but she said, go ahead and do the ice cubes. And I was like, well, yeah, because like how else am I going to slow drip water? Like unless I like pour a little bit and then I like set a timer for an hour and then I come back and I pour a little bit more. I'm like, I'm not going to do that. Like, again, I already struggle like to take care of plants. So we need to make this as like easy as possible. Like I can't be out here slow dripping water into an orchid once a week. Like it's just not going to happen. So all that to say, I did my first round of ice cubes. Now see, this is what they don't tell. So they have a picture of the ice cubes, and they are the ice cubes that I would say come out of my parents' refrigerator, like the size and the shape. And they say 3 of those. Now here's the problem. I don't get ice out of my like freezer from the apartment. We just have an ice tray that we fill with water and it makes ice cubes. That mold for the ice cubes we use are quite large in comparison to the ice cube that it's showing me on the tag. Again, that look almost more like the size of the ones that come from my parents' house. So I'm like, okay, now we're getting to the whole thing because there's different size ice cubes. You guys are probably like, this is the most boring podcast I've ever heard. Guys, I just need you to understand, like, I don't know if anyone else experiences this, but there again, they're like, do this, 3 ice cubes once a week. Cool. But I don't know how many of my size ice cubes equals a fourth of a cup of water. And everyone's already saying that I can't under or over water the orchid because it's very sensitive in that regard. So I did 2 ice cubes last night because they're bigger and instead of 3. And so now I need to go back home and check my soil and see if the soil's wet or what's going on with the orchid. That was a really long-winded explanation of me getting mad at Big Orchid, but I just need to get this all off my chest, because if you are out there and you're like me and you're not a plant person and somebody got you a plant, somebody got you an orchid, I'm going to keep you guys updated on the orchid journey. Okay. I don't know what to expect. Something, it's either going to thrive or I'm going to kill it. Like one of the two. And then I'm like, what are we going to do in the winter? We don't get sun in Ohio in the winter for like 6 months. It's like Antarctica over here. Like, I don't know how it's going to do, like, with no sunlight. Because then one of the plants the plant that Aaron got me that needed direct sunlight, Becca's like, well, why didn't you could have got like a heat lamp. I'm like, what do I look like to you? Again, I'm not people. I'm not a plant person. I ain't going out my way. If I can water it and sustain it and keep it by a window, cool. If it requires much more of me than that, it's probably going to die. Okay? I'm just keeping it real. I don't want it to die. It's very pretty. I cannot promise anything. So here's hoping, fingers crossed, say a little prayer that my orchid does not die and I don't kill it by giving it ice cubes, whether that be ice cubes in general, or maybe my ice cubes are not the right size and quantity for the amount of water it needs. That's been my last 24 to 48 hours, is worrying about this freaking orchid. So, it's so pretty though. And that's what I'm like, honey, the friend who gave it to me, if you're listening to this, I am learning so much, and I needed an orchid. I needed an orchid in my life. The Lord knew I needed an orchid. There's some lesson to be learned here, in patience or just research that I needed to do. So thank you for the orchid. It truly is so pretty. I'm so scared of killing it, and I'm so sorry if I do. That's basically my message. Yeah, so that's Big Orchid. And then, did a shoot for, I gotta wear their t-shirt. I gotta do like a little promo for them. Maybe I'll try to do that next week. I gotta be better about this stuff. So there's basically a company. So my dad was working for a guy who's high up in this company, and they sell basically these products called Tubbo towels. And you've probably maybe seen them on Amazon or Home Depot. They're kind of sold like everywhere. They're kind of, target demographic is people like my dad who work in like construction, blue collar, get their hands dirty, greasy, mechanics, things like that. Because these towels are supposed to be like really good, and they have soap, and they have like a whole line of products. I didn't even realize how many products they had. But basically, my dad was doing work at this guy's house, obviously construction-wise, whatever. Gets to talking to him and, says something about me and that I do photo and video work and all this stuff. So basically one thing leads to another. I meet their marketing director. She's lovely. I feel like we became like, we were like kind of instant like friends. Like we're on the same page about a lot of things. This is great. They basically hired me to do this lifestyle photo shoot for them, which was very exciting. I was like, this is fantastic, super exciting. Because again, I've worked in commercial production for 5 years, but for me to actually have like my own client and one that like I'm actually the photographer and not just like a digitech or assistant for, I was just like, oh, this is like pretty cool. Also, I was like, oh, this is like very new to me. Like I've had multiple clients before, but it's usually been like events or like just it hasn't been like lifestyle, like product photography type things. But I was very excited about it. Honestly, I think the shoot went very well. Funnily enough, we did it at my parents' house because they were like, trying to kind of keep this low budget. They were like, we need a location. I was like, well, honestly, from what you're telling me your needs are, I was like, my parents' house. And I was already going to be there anyway because of the cookout situation we had on the 4th of July. So I was like, honestly, I can ask my parents. I don't see them having a problem with it. If you guys are willing to drive all the way out to Amish country, y'all can come out here and we can do the shoot here. So the one lady, it was so fun because I was like, it's just like, it's like a big world, but then sometimes it just feels small, right? Because so the one lady from the company who was like my main contact for the shoot, she was like, well, I'm going to bring my cousin for him to just volunteer to just kind of be a hand model, right? And so I learn he's in town, he's in Ohio visiting, he lives in Canada. So I have a man from Canada standing in my parents' garage in the middle of Amish country. I'm like, how random is this? Like, I was like, oh my gosh. And he's like, I made myself look so stupid though. Listen, I'll air it out. You guys can get a good laugh out of this. I said, well, he says to me something about like Winnipeg. I think that's like the area where he's kind of from. And I don't know that he's from Canada. At this point, I'm thinking, why would a man outside of the United States be in my parents' garage right now, right? So I'm like, Winnipeg. I'm like, that sounds so familiar. And I said, what state is that in again? And he like kind of chuckles, but he was very nice about it. And he was like, Providence? Like, wait, no, I said that wrong. See, I even just messed it up. Province, the provinces of Canada. Guys, I'm not very smart geographically. I apologize. So he's like province. And as soon as he said province, I was like, oh, you are not from the United States. And then he was like, oh, it's like north, whatever. And I was like, oh my gosh, you're from Canada. And he's like, yeah. And I was like, again, why would I think that? So I guess he comes down like, every year or so to like visit his family, one of whom is his cousin that works for this company. And he just like likes, if he can come to work with her and just kind of like, see what she does or like, again, help out with like a shoot and just be like a hand person, like for photos. Like, I guess he's like done that a couple times before. And, but it's just so funny because he's like, yeah, I'm from Canada. I'm like a man from Canada standing in my parents' garage. Like, who would have thought? But it's so funny because he was just telling us some stories and we were all like, you have experienced more of Ohio than we who live in Ohio have experienced. Like, he's been to like these places that I'm like, I've never been there. The other girl's like, I've never been there. And then he just has these stories. We told him, I was like, you need to start a vlog. Like, you got to start a vlog because I was like, I would watch it. And I was like, you could just like share your adventures of like when you come to the States, when you come to Ohio, because like how interesting, like especially like from a Canadian perspective, like coming to the United States, I know that there's differences. I don't know what all of the differences are, but I know that there are some. And so, yeah, it was just like, it was just like a cool little nugget that just happened in the midst of like us doing like the shoot. That he was there and I got to meet someone from Canada. So I don't know if I've ever actually met anyone from Canada. I did go there when I was like 10. Me and my parents went to the Canada side of Niagara Falls. But again, it's like I didn't like meet people. Also, I was like 10. I was like a child. So I wasn't like chatting it up with like strangers in Canada. That'd be weird. But yeah, so he was like, he was at the shoot helping us out. And I was like, okay, didn't expect this, but cool little thing. So that was Monday, and yeah, that was basically my weekend. Big Orchid and a new friend from Canada came to my parents' house for a photo shoot. Sometimes I'm like, what is my life? I told you guys I was gonna have stories. I told you guys I was just gonna have weird, random stories, things that happen that I was gonna share on this podcast. I warned y'all out the gate, and here you go. Here's a little tidbit, an inside look of at my last couple days. This chair is so loud. But yeah, I'm trying to think. Like, I think that's like, there's of course always other stuff going on, but it's like I can't talk about everything on the podcast, at least not yet. Some things were like, we gotta like get through this before I can maybe talk about this. But yeah, it's definitely been a crazy week, somewhat emotionally and mentally draining, somewhat spiritually draining, I guess you could say. I don't know. I've just felt like a little like off and like out of it. Which I guess could go back to like my fast, which again, I'm not going to get into so much the fasting part of it, but the conclusion of the fast is what I think I just want to like touch on today, just to let you guys know from an honest like perspective, like where I'm at, kind of like what's going on internally currently. So where I'm at with things post fast, it was not what I was expecting it to be, which I'm like learning more and more by the day and by the week. Like, most things are not turning out to be what I expected them to be, but that doesn't mean that they aren't what they need to be. And so basically, I had a conversation with Allie P, who you have heard me reference so many times on this podcast. That girl is just a gift from the Lord in the season that this has been. And I shared in a couple podcast episodes back that I don't currently attend a church. I will one day, and this is a promise and a guarantee because I feel like it needs to be talked about. I will talk about why currently I do not have a church that I attend and why I had to leave the church that I was attending. We will get into that. I just need to make sure that my heart is in the right place and that I am healed from some things before I dive into that, because I want to approach it from a place of honor and of truth, and not just from any place of anger or bitterness or resentment. So I'm still healing, which is part of this discussion of me not currently having a church that I've been attending. I have felt like God has like been here, but I've also felt like within recent like weeks and months, he's been kind of like quieter from how I'm used to hearing him, which is pretty like directly. And I'm just kind of like, I keep questioning like a lot of things. Like I'm like, God, like I've started some new things. I've been doing some things for a while. What do you want me to do? What do you not want me to do? I want your hand on whatever I'm doing. So like I've been very big of like, is this in your will? Is your hand on this thing? And I'm not going to lie, like even just driving here to the studio today to record this, I was starting to get emotional, as I am right now. And I said, like, God, if your hand is not on something, I don't want it. I don't. That's a scary thing to say, and that's a scary prayer to pray. But if your hand's not on it, if you have not blessed it, if you have not graced and equipped me for it, I don't want to do it. And I'm very much in a season of trying to figure out if the things I'm doing sometimes feel hard and sometimes feel overwhelming because I'm not graced and equipped for it, like he hasn't called me to it or he hasn't asked me to do it, or if the things feel hard because there's growth that's happening, there's pruning that's happening, there's a maturing that's happening, and there are things that I'm encountering that I have not encountered before, and I haven't done something like this before, and I've never been in a situation like this before, and in trying to figure out like, does it feel hard because again it's hard because I'm not supposed to be doing it, or does it feel hard because it's uncomfortable and I've never done it before, but I'm graced and equipped to handle it? And it's a very hard thing to discern. And I'm in the midst of it. I'm not coming to you as someone who has it all figured out. I'm not coming to you as someone who's like, oh, yes, I have cracked the code. I figured it out. Hopefully one day I can come back and I can look back at this and be like, oh yeah, God was showing me this, or God was showing me this, like which one it was. I just have not yet fully discerned it. But the topic of me not belonging to a church body, of me not attending a church, of me not being a member of a church, has brought up some tough conversations with some people, and some people who are, I would say, and consider close friends in the last couple weeks. And there's concern for my spiritual health and well-being, because one, I'm doing this podcast and I'm publicly facing, and two, because I am, going through the book of Romans with a group of people in my apartment, and I'm leading a Bible study. Now, the story behind leading Bible study, honestly, is a pretty simple one. I stopped attending the church I was at as of well, let me put it this way. I stopped going physically in June was the last time I went of last year. So we're coming up on a year. And I basically silently left because after that, I was kind of 1 foot in, 1 foot out. And I was praying to God and I was like, you need to give me a sign. I decided to go to a different church with some friends of mine. And when I was, this was the first church that I had attended outside of the church that I had been at, since basically getting to the point of being 1 foot in, 1 foot out. And really, I haven't attended many other churches in the last, honestly, really much of my life. I went to the church I grew up in until I was 18. Then I moved to Cleveland and started going to college. And then I basically immediately went to the church for 8 years that I left last year. And so I haven't really known many other churches. Like, sure, I went to some conferences, or I did like a one-off, if I was like traveling or something, I did a one-off at like a different church in a different state or city, but I haven't really known other church cultures, communities, things like that. And I basically just prayed. I'm like, God, like, if I'm supposed to leave, I really need you to like give me something this Sunday as I go to this different church. And not saying, and it ended up being not that this church, like me going there was like, oh yes, this is like my new home church. Oh yeah, I'm going to start coming here now instead of there. That wasn't what I was asking. And that ended up being like not what happened. I just needed confirmation that it was time for me to move out and move on from the church I had been at. And that confirmation came. And again, I will get into more specifics in the future, but that confirmation came. So basically you could say like I officially stopped attending the church I had been at for 8 years in August of last year is when I made my final decision, and I never went back. I did again visit like that church that my friends had gone to, that I attended that Sunday that I got confirmation. I attended. I've gone to like a couple church services here or there. Like I could probably count on like one hand since last August. Nothing consistent, nothing. I just am like, I need a minute. I've been tired. I have been hurt. I have been disappointed. And let me just make sure I state for the record that I have been tired and I have been disappointed by people, not by the Lord. And that's a very key thing, because unfortunately what happens in a lot of church hurt, which is kind of the phrase that has been coined for it, and I hate that we even have a phrase for it because that means that happens far too often, is that a lot of church hurt results in people walking away from God. And that is something that I can tell everybody with confidence, that my relationship with God has only gotten stronger. And I'm going to get to that in a second. I have not walked away from my Lord and Savior at all. If anything, I have clung to him. See, I still get emotional, which is how I know I'm not fully healed yet. And that's okay. No one's asking me to be. And let this be your sign, if you're watching this, that you don't have to be either. Even if you're not going through almost what feels like a breakup with your church, even if you're going through something else, you don't have to be fully healed right now. Don't let people rush you. Don't let people try to put you on a human timeline of grief, of healing, of forgiveness. It's not a simple process. It's not one prayer one time and, oh, okay, I no longer have feelings about this person or how they hurt me or how they disappointed me. No, it's a journey. And the Lord is so patient and so graceful, or grace-filled and merciful and kind and compassionate, that he will be more than happy to walk with you through it and on it. And he is doing that with me, and has been doing that with me. Granted, we still have a little ways to go, because again, it's not a one and done. It's not, oh God, like help me forgive these people, and I pray that one time and it's done. It's not. It's been a lot of prayers. Honestly, not a lot of tears, which I think God a couple months back. It was probably 2 months ago, 2 to 3 months ago. I was sitting there eating breakfast, and I was trying to watch a live stream of one of my favorite churches in the country, 2819, Philip Anthony Mitchell's church. And I was watching their live stream as I was eating breakfast. I don't know why, I just felt like trying it out, because usually I just watch his sermons like after the fact. I don't watch like the live stream in the moment. And I was sitting there watching the live stream, and I was just overcome with grief. And I felt, gosh, sorry guys, bear with me. I still don't have tissues on this table. Allie P, I'm failing you. She told me to get tissues here, and I still haven't done it. I felt like the Holy Spirit very gently was like, you need to grieve. And I'm like, and at first I kind of got combative, in my spirit. I was like, well, what do you mean? Like, I have grieved. Like, I cried a lot, in August of last year when I made my decision to no longer go to this church, or, like, and people disappointing me and all this stuff. And I was like, what do you mean? Like, I have grieved. And I just felt like the Holy Spirit was like, you grieved like certain aspects of it, but you haven't really grieved or gotten closure about like you leaving. I left. It was so seamlessly that it was, when I tell you guys the full story, you'll understand more what I mean, but it was nothing short of being orchestrated by the Lord, the way that he moved me out and had actually started to move me out months before I made the decision to leave. And he orchestrated everything in a way where I left very seamlessly, very quietly. It wasn't like I was there one Sunday and then all of a sudden like everyone's like, where'd Nicole go? Like, but specifically even like my role that I had there of being in charge of production, it was a huge part of my life. I just felt like he's like, I just felt like he was like, you have not even grieved that. Like, you have not grieved giving that up, walking away from something that you really enjoyed doing. I didn't want to. He asked me to give that up in December of 2023. He said, it's time. He said the pillar is lifting and it's time to move out. And I knew he was referring to Exodus. I believe it's Exodus 38, where it talks about there's a pillar of fire by night and a cloud by day. And when it would lift and move, that's how the Israelites knew in the wilderness it was time to move out, because that was the presence of the Lord being like, okay, it's time, we're going to move forward. And if it sat, that means that they knew to pitch their tents and stay. And he said the pillar is lifting and I'm moving you out. And that was in December of 2023. And I didn't know I didn't know why at the time. I didn't understand, and I prayed about it, and it took me until February to give my final decision that I needed to step down. And again, I didn't really know why, and I didn't really want to. And I'm like, what do you mean? Like, I like doing this. I like the people that are on my team and all this stuff. And then kind of everything compiled very quickly into one kind of disastrous train wreck. Just years worth of things just kind of happened all at once. And in 2024, and I realized at that point in August, I said, oh, this is why. This is why you had been so intentional. And in your goodness and your kindness and your mercy, God, you foresaw something that I didn't. And you started to lift the grace that you had given me to do what I was doing in the space I was doing it in, so that I could get moved out. And it really protected me. Even though I didn't understand it at the time, I just had to be obedient. And he goes, you have not grieved. Even that. You know, set aside the hurt, set aside the disappointment, set aside all these things. He goes, you haven't even grieved that, like, you had to give that up. You're allowed to grieve that. So I'm sitting there again. This is back in April, and I feel the Holy Spirit being like, you need to grieve. And I just feel like I haven't been, and I've been like pushing it off, and I'm like, I don't want to. It's just been easier to kind of like just not go to church. And again, I've been wrestling with, I'm trying to fight the spirit of offense. I'm trying to fight the spirit of bitterness. I'm trying to forgive. I'm trying to release. And what's crazy is, and I forget who told me this, and I'm so sorry if you said this to me and I forget, but one of the best things someone said to me just in the last couple weeks was like, because I was like, I don't understand, because I feel like I've forgiven like these people. Like, I really feel like I have been like releasing these people to the Lord. And somebody looked at me and said, there is a huge difference between forgiving the person and forgiving what they did. And they said, if you still feel like this like tug of like bitterness or resentment or like the spirit of offense or like you haven't fully forgiven them, because I'm like, I feel like I haven't fully forgiven them. And they were like, it's because you have not forgiven what they did. You've forgiven them as a person, but you have not actually sat there and been like, and like listed it out as like, I forgive them for this offense, this way they hurt me, this way they disappointed me, all these things. And that's what I still have to do with the Lord. I know I still have to do that. And apparently, as we see right now, as I'm crying, I still have to grieve not only people that I've lost by leaving, but things that I lost by leaving, doing things that I enjoyed in serving the church and the kingdom in a way that I really kind of found like I was in my like stride, and I was good at what I was doing, and the Lord really like had just graced me to do it. And again, I'm not perfect, but I feel like I did it well. I still need to grieve that. And so all this to say, I've not been actively church seeking. I've not been church, I hate to again use this term, but church shopping. I don't want to church shop, all this stuff. So all this to come to the current week of what has been is it's in the last hour of my fast. It's like 11 o'clock at night. My fast ends at midnight. This is Thursday night. I'm on the phone with Allie P. And we basically, she helps me. I had already kind of been feeling it, but she kind of confirms for me. So there was 2 other people that I had conversations with. The conversations were not just about, hey, we're kind of like, why are you not in a church? Or we're kind of worried you're doing these things, you're not in a church. It was like the conversations were about other things as well. Like, it wasn't just that. But every time, so the first conversation happened, then the second conversation happened, and both times I went, God, is this you saying to me that it's time that I go back to a church somewhere? Is this you speaking? Because again, like I said, I'm not saying he hasn't been here. I'm not saying he's said like nothing to me, or I haven't like felt like I heard like from like the Holy Spirit, but he's just been quiet in a way that I'm not used to. And it's been making me nervous because I'm like, God, are you here? Are you with me? Is your hand on this? Is your hand on what I'm doing? Please don't leave me. I need you. I want to be in your will. I don't want to just be out here doing whatever I want to do whenever I want to do it. I'm trying to be submitted to you. I'm trying to die to my flesh. I'm trying to, all these things. And, I had like this tinge in my spirit, both conversations after the fact I was like, God, was that you telling me it's time to go back through these people? And I'm on the phone with Allie P, and she said, I didn't want to say this to you. But she said, because I saw her Wednesday for like an hour and a half maybe, we talked. And she said, after I left yesterday, she said, I just got the feeling like you need to go back to church. Now, the way that she phrased it, I said, see, why when you say things do I not want to like have like a complete temper tantrum? Like, because she phrased it in such a way that not like, Nicole, you're doing something wrong. Not like, Nicole, you're a bad leader, or you're not hosting your podcast well enough, or you're theologically incorrect because you don't belong to a church, like all this. It wasn't, and I'm not saying that the other people said that. It's just like that was the feeling that came with those conversations. And again, that's probably a lot of my own insecurities, because again, I'm not saying that these people said that. But it's been a lot of me feeling very like insecure and timid about what I'm doing. And I promise I'll get back to Bible study in a second, because I know I started that blip of the topic of the conversation, then I moved on. Sorry, this is my ADHD. And she said, like, I had a feeling when I left our conversation yesterday, like that you need to maybe start going back to a church. And she said, again, not because like you're doing something wrong or egregious, or like you're like this bad person or a bad leader or anything. She just said, I feel like there's something there. That, sorry guys, I did not expect to get this emotional. There's something there for you that God is wanting to give you, and he is waiting to meet you and give it to you there. I don't know what it is. She doesn't know what it is. It could be instruction. It could be clarity. It could be healing. It could be all of the above. It could be something I didn't even just list that I don't even know what's coming my way. But she said, I feel like in you, stepping out in faith and in obedience and doing this, even though you don't want to. I'm going to sit here. Well, let me just finish that statement that she's like, I think that there's something there for you. I think that there's something he has for you. And she goes, how does that make you feel? And I said, honestly, my first gut reaction is, where am I going to go? Because this brings up the whole thing of, and I'm talking about this because I know other people have been through this or are going through this right now. And if you're frustrated, and if you're just like, I don't even know where to go, I don't even know what to do, I don't want to church shop, this seems like an overwhelming task. I'm here saying all this. I'm saying this as a Jesus-loving, Jesus-believing, Bible-believing, like all of the things. I love the faith. I'm trying to heal, and I'm trying to like find it, but deep down, I do love and believe in the local church. I believe in the capital C, like church. This is how Jesus wanted things established here on earth as we are waiting to go be with him on that side of heaven. But while we're here, we have the church, and the church body is important. I would never say otherwise. I would never say otherwise, because it's in this book. And as you guys know, I have reference to it in here. I know how important it is. I just, very honestly, I've been through some things, and I have not wanted to re-enter the church. I'm scared. I'm hurt, and I'm scared, and it feels like an overwhelming task. And I can't say right now that I'm super excited. I can't say that I'm like looking forward to going from church to church to church to church to try to, and then I'm like, okay, God, what does this look like? Or am I just supposed to kind of hop around a couple places, and then like hopefully you're going to tell me like this isn't it, or like this is it, like stay here, root down here. Like I'm just waiting for like the next instruction. But all this to say, I said, Allie, are you telling me that I just did a whole like 3-day fast? I'll get into later. There was kind of like complications that I had bodily, physically, that I was not really doing well. I was like, are you just telling me that all this happened within the last 72 hours for in the last hour of this fast, for me to be on the phone with you, for you to be the third person to basically tell me, hey, it might be time to go back? And I want to make something very, 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 very clear. I am not, and I said this to these people in these other conversations, I cannot, and I am not going back to a church because you want me to go back to a church, or because you would feel more comfortable with what I'm doing if I'm going to a church service on Sunday. I want to make that very, very clear. I am not doing this because anybody, including Allie P., said to me something about me going back to church. I'm doing this because I am believing right now, and I could come back in a couple weeks or a couple months, guys, and be like, I got it wrong. I misread the signs and the situations, and this wasn't it. But as of right now, there was something in my spirit when she said that to me that was like, yeah, it probably is time. And that probably is the next step I need to take, because I've kind of just been feeling like, okay, God, I started this podcast. I'm doing this Bible study. I'm still going to come back to that in a second. I don't, like, what now, God? Like, what are we doing? And it's just, I haven't really gotten, like, instruction past, again, where we're at right now. And so when she said to me, and again, I'm paraphrasing her words, but when she said to me that there's something that he's waiting to meet me there. And again, I want to make sure like we're on the same page. I am not being convicted right now to start going back to a church, whatever that means and looks like, or start church shopping. Because it's like, oh, I'm going to get something in return. I just want him. I just want to feel and very like clearly experience his presence and him. That is what I'm seeking. That is what I'm after. He doesn't owe me anything. He doesn't have to give me anything. He doesn't have to give me clarity. He doesn't have to give me instruction. He doesn't have to bless my bank account. If I show up somewhere and I just if all of this is so that I show up somewhere and I feel his arm on my shoulder, his arms wrapped around me, that is all I need right now. That's enough. And I don't really have any other plan B. I don't really have anything else to do other than be like, okay, God, maybe you have just used 3 people in 3 different conversations to gently say to me, hey, it's time to go back. And Allie brought up a really good point, and I think this is worth mentioning. if you're in a similar season or situation, that God is very intentional about how he chooses to speak to us. And so she said to me, she said, Nicole, you know that if God just wanted to directly say to you, hey, it's time to go back to church, you know that he would just say that. He fully capable. I would hear that. I would be like, yeah, okay, like, got it. You know that he was capable of just saying that to you. But she said the fact that he's using people. You were hurt by people. You were hurt by people that you were in pretty close relationship with, that you trusted, all this stuff. The fact that he's using people in your life to kind of say this to you is very intentional. And she's like, I don't think that's a coincidence. And I don't think it's a coincidence either. And so again, as humbly as I can, as openly as I can. And again, I don't care that this podcast isn't polished. I don't care if there's someone sitting out there thinking, oh, Nicole, you shouldn't be talking about this while you're in the midst of it. You should wait for 8 to 12 to 16 months down the road when you actually have this all solidified. No, somebody needs to hear this now. Somebody needs to see my tears now. And so I don't care that this isn't polished. I don't care that this is me being vulnerable. I told you guys, this is what this podcast is. You want authenticity, you want vulnerability. This is what I'm walking through this week. That I love Jesus and I am scared and I am apprehensive and I don't really want to in my flesh. Nothing really in me wants to start going back to church on a Sunday morning as of right now. And if you don't want to sit through and hear that and listen to me just be actually honest, again, I'm sorry, this isn't the podcast for you. I know how important the church is. And I know how important it is that I do find a church. And I said a couple podcast episodes ago, I want to be spiritually led. I want to be spiritually mentored and spiritually taken care of and someone to come alongside me and encourage me. And whether it's this podcast or if I continue leading the Bible Study, let me go to the Bible Study real quick. I left church back in August. This is how Bible study happened at my apartment. Okay, you guys want to know the full? Here's the full thing. It's not very long. It's not very complicated. And I feel like with God, sometimes that's how it is. I started to slowly tell people who did not go to church with me, people who are not even church-going people. Some of those people that I told don't even believe or ascribe to anything. And I slowly started to tell people in my life, or people started to find out that I had left the church. Now, keep in mind, these people know how dedicated and devoted and how big of a part of my life that church and what I did there and how I served was. That was like a huge part of my life. And so I'm saying that to lay the groundwork of they're not taking lightly when I say that I left. This isn't like I was like a new Christian. I went somewhere for 3 months and then I tell some people, oh yeah, I don't go to that church anymore. This is 8 years and a lot of time and effort and devotion put in. So they're not taking this lightly. I have a couple people say to me, why don't you start your own thing? Well, why don't you some people kind of joked, like, why don't you start your own church? I'm thinking, I ain't no pastor. I ain't got no theology degree. Like, what are you talking about? Like, no. And then I had some people more specifically be like, when are you going to start a Bible study? One of my closest friends, she goes, when are you going to start a Bible study? I'm like looking around, I'm like, whoever said anything about starting a Bible study? I didn't want to start a Bible study, just so we're all clear. He knows, so I'm not saying anything that's new to my and his relationship. I didn't want to start a Bible study. I had no intention, no desire, no plan to start a Bible study. I'm like, can I just have a minute? Can I just heal for a second? I've been going hard in the paint for a lot of years, and I need some time to collect myself. Come around, it was end of September, beginning of October. I remember so distinctly, I'm putting laundry away in my bedroom. And the Lord says to me, and it was kind of like the voice I hear internally that is not my voice, not my thoughts. It's the Holy Spirit. And he just, again, very calmly, very gently, but very matter of fact, which is how he speaks to me, says, I want you to open your home, and I want you to go and read Acts 2. Sorry, go and I read Acts 2. And he said, I want you to open up your home. And he said, I want you to go back to Acts 2 in the way that you do it, and strip everything down and strip everything back to basics and go back to how it was in the early days of the church. And that's what I want you to do. That's what I want this to be. That is the only instruction I've been given since, let's just say for benefit of the doubt's sake, since the beginning of October. It's now the middle of July when I'm recording this. That is the only instruction I had been given, is open up your home and go back to Acts 2. And in case you're wondering what Acts 2 says, I'm going to read it for you. Not the whole thing, but specifically the ending, starting in, so Acts 2, starting in verse 42 through 47. Every believer was faithfully devoted to following the teachings of the apostles. Their hearts were mutually linked to one another, sharing communion and coming together regularly for prayer. A deep sense of holy awe swept over everyone, and the apostles performed many miracles, signs, and wonders. All the believers were in fellowship as one body, and they shared with one another whatever they had. Out of generosity, they even sold their assets to distribute the proceeds to those who were in need among them. Daily they met together in the temple courts and in one another's homes to celebrate communion. They shared meals together with joyful hearts and tender humility. They were continually filled with praises to God, enjoying the favor of all the people, and the Lord kept adding to their number daily those who were coming to life. So open up my home. Have it be a place where we open the scripture. We try to encourage one another. We try to foster a spirit of vulnerability, of accountability, just doing life together, having communion, praying, worshiping. We did just start a new thing I started about 2 months ago. I just felt convicted about that we weren't really having meals together. So now the last Sunday of every month, we're trying to do what I'm calling like family dinner, where whether it's my home or someone's or at a park or something, we get together and we share a meal together. We break bread. And as humbly as I can, that's what I was given. And so that's Bible study. That's why I started it, because that's what the Lord spoke to me. And I think especially coming out of what I was coming out of, there was something so refreshing about going back to the basics of the early church. There's something so refreshing in those last 5 verses of Acts 2. That's like, this is what it's supposed to be. This is what this is supposed to look like. This is what this is supposed to just, this is like the church. This is like what this is supposed to be. And again, for the sake of purposes of people feeling some type of way, fine. I'm not calling us a church. I'm not saying we're anything official. We're not certified. I'm not calling myself a pastor. I'm not saying I have any degree or anything to be that or to call myself that. I don't know what else to give you other than that. That's what I was given. And so that's what I was obedient to do. And now I am being prompted that maybe it's time to go back. And there's something for me. And again, maybe I don't find a home church for a couple months. Maybe I just kind of go a couple different places. Maybe I find one place that I'm like, I'm just going to sit at this church in this community for maybe a couple months or something. I'm just trying to be very open to like wherever the Lord is guiding and leading for me to be, that's where I will be, or that's where I will stay if I need to stay there. And I'm just trying to move in obedience. I'm not going because people told me that they want me to go. I'm not going because it's making people feel better about anything I'm doing because I go. I'm going because I have to believe that right now in this season that Allie P is on to something, and the Spirit is moving in what she said to me, and it spoke to me in a way that's like the Lord is waiting to meet me there. And if that's where he wants to meet me in this season, because it has been me and him for a long time. When I said that my faith did not get shaken, when I said that my relationship with God actually has only gotten stronger since I left the church a year ago, it has. Because it's been me and him like this. Because I haven't had pastoral guidance. I haven't had spiritual leadership. I haven't had spiritual mentorship. I've only had him. And another thing Allie P said, and she knows that it's been me and him like this. And she said, like, it served me for a time, but that doesn't mean that he just always wants it to be like that. Again, the church, the whole point was that we would have people older than us, people further along than us, a community of peers and those wiser than us, feeding the truth and the love of God into each other. And that is what I have not had. That is what has been missing. I have longed for it, but I haven't really known how to go about finding it, or again, it just seems like an impossible task, but there might just be something for me if I kind of get over myself and stop throwing my little temper tantrum. And I just am obedient to start walking into a place of worship, and experiencing what kind of culture they have, what kind of community they have. I'm sure this is going to be a journey. I'm sure I'm going to come back for several episodes and have updates of things that I'm seeing or learning, or things that God is healing within me. I don't really know what to expect. I'm kind of going in with not a lot of expectation and just like, God, I'm here by faith. And I'm really, if this is you speaking this, then I'm doing this out of obedience, not because, again, I want to. If you're asking me, I don't really feel ready. But there again, I may not be ready until I'm kind of pushed into it. And again, you have to go into, I want to be careful how I say this. You cannot heal in the environment that hurt you necessarily. Like you cannot obtain healing by just going back to the environment that you were hurt in. But what I will say is that God, as Allie P said, even is usually intentional with the way that he gives you healing. He's intentional that, and I've seen it before, if you were hurt in relationship, he will use a relationship to help heal that wound. If you were hurt in the church, guess what? You're probably going to have to go back to the church to heal some of those wounds. And that's just how it is. And I know this, but of course, now that it's like me going through, I'm like, I don't like this. The last thing I'll say on this is, when I was on the phone with Becca the other night, I was kind of telling her all this. I was like, I think I have to start going back to church. And I was kind of like just venting, complaining. I'm like, I don't want to go back to church. Like, however I said it, I was like, I don't want to go back to church. Like, why do I have to do this? Like, just kind of getting my temper tantrum out, acting like a toddler. And I just felt the Holy Spirit very quickly, very sharply, as soon as that left my mouth. And I don't want this to be taken as like, oh, this is the only reason. Like, no. But it was so clear of like, you cannot become a bride until you have healed your relationship with my bride. If you guys don't understand what I'm saying, that's okay. But basically, Jesus references that many times throughout Scripture, that he is the bridegroom, and his church, the church that he has established here on earth, capital C, the church of believers, of Christians here on earth, is his bride. So he is the bridegroom, his church is the bride. So when we say about Jesus returning for a second time or him coming back, that he is the bridegroom and he's coming for his bride, that's what that means. He's coming for the body of believers. He's coming for the church. He's coming back for those people within the body of the church that's been established here on this side of heaven. And so I just felt him very sharply say that, because I desire to be married. I pray that happens, someday, in the future here. And I've desired that for a long time in my life. And I just felt him say, like, you cannot become a bride until you have healed your relationship with my bride. And because marriage ultimately is a picture of that relationship. Of marriage is the picture and the image that we get here on earth of Jesus as the groom and the church as the bride. That's why there is no marriage in heaven. If you read in the New Testament, the Pharisees come to Jesus and they're like, trying to go through this. Well, it was actually, I think, the Sadducees, because that group of Jews didn't believe in resurrection, basically. Like they didn't believe that like there was like a life after this life, basically. And so they were like, well, if this woman marries this guy, but then he dies, but then he has 7 brothers and she marries every single one of them and they don't have any kids, like whose wife is she when they're in heaven? Like, according to you, if like there's like this, resurrection or like new life that's taking place, whose wife is she when she gets to heaven? And Jesus says none of theirs, because there is no husband and wife in heaven. There is no marriage in heaven. You don't need marriage in heaven when you are living in the picture of and the image of what marriage is actually a metaphor of. There's no need for it there, because you are, as a part of the believing body, you are the bride that has been now in one, and has come into one with Christ in that final day that we're talking about, when Jesus returns for a second time and the judgment happens, and all the things that are talked about in Matthew and Revelation and all these scriptures happens. That is the bride coming into oneness with her groom. There is no need for marriage, because we're literally living, again, the image of what marriage is actually painted in the image of, which is that ultimate relationship between us and Christ. So all that to say, again, not the reason I'm going back to church. It's not because like, oh, well, I guess I can't get married, or I'm not going to be a good wife until I go back to, no. Again, I think the Holy Spirit is just giving me like these little things of like, hey, you need to grieve this. Hey, you need to heal this, because you're not going to be able to fully grasp, to fully understand. It's for your betterment that you heal in these ways now. I'm inviting you into this healing now. I'm inviting you to meet me here now, so that you can move forward in wholeness, in health. It's for my betterment. Again, there's been no sense of condemnation that I have heard from the Lord that's like, you shouldn't be leading this Bible study. You shouldn't be doing this podcast because you don't belong to a church. The Lord knows my heart. The Lord knows why I don't currently belong to a church. And he knows how hard and painful this journey has been, and probably that it will be for me to start to return to a place of worship. And I just feel like he's saying that's all okay, and we're going to get through it. I'm going to get through it with you. I'm here with you. I'm here. And if that's where he is, then that's where I will go. If he is waiting to meet with me intimately in a place of worship, then I will go. And that is why I am going. That doesn't mean it's easy. Again, that doesn't mean in my flesh I want to go do this. But I will be obedient to go if that's what he's asking me to do. And that's where I'm at, guys. That's the truth of it all. I don't really know if I have much else to say today. I don't. that's the honest truth. That's the raw truth of what this feels like, and that this transition is not easy. But I just have to believe, and I do believe, and I do know that he's with me in it. And that's what God, as long as your hand is here, there I will be also. I don't want to move in anything, into anything that you are not in. And I'm fully trusting and believing that he is going to give me clarity and guidance of what church I need to be at, how long I need to be there. He has proven to me that he will say the pillar has lowered and we're going to stay here. We're going to camp here for a minute. And or he will say the pillar is lifting. It's time to move out. I believe that he will do that with this podcast. I believe that he will do that with Bible study. I believe that he will do that with me finding a church. I believe that he will do that in my relationship with Aaron. My relationship, like, again, dating, it's hard. That's a whole different conversation. But I fully believe in whatever aspect, God has been too good. God has been too faithful. Even when I have been faithless, he has been too intentional and has pursued after me too much and been like, oh, no, you're going this way. We're going to come back over here. And he has grabbed me and he has picked me up and he has redirected me and he has healed me and brought me through other things in just even the last 7 or so years. He has been too good of a father for him to all of a sudden just leave me now. And all of a sudden just be like, well, you're on your own now. Oh, well, you stopped going to church. Well, you're on your own now. No. He's here. Thank you, God, that you're here. I literally prayed on my way here, and all I could really utter again was like, if you're not here, if your hand's not here, I don't want it. And I was like, God, like, please just like, let me know you're here. And I just feel like he is. I just feel like he is. And I know he collects every tear. And so I know he's collected every tear that I've cried on this podcast. So thank you guys for just bearing with me. Thank you for listening to my crying voice. I know that's super annoying. I get so annoyed by that. So I apologize. Thank you for just sitting with me in this. But yeah, that's what I have for you guys today. I pray that whatever your life is looking like right now, that you would just feel that God is there with you. If you've just been like, God, I just need to know you're here. God, I pray right now over these people that you would just send them a feeling, a presence, a sign of your love and your tender care for them. And publicly, God, I just thank you for being here. And I just thank you for your faithfulness to me, even when I have not been the most faithful. Thank you for pursuing me, even when I have not pursued you. And thank you for leading me into hard things that I have not wanted to unpack or enter into. But I know you're doing it for my betterment and for my good, ultimately. And so, yeah, I just pray that over you guys. I pray that you have a blessed week moving forward. And yeah, we'll see what we get into on the next episode of For the One Podcast.
Cute, but dumb. Cute, but stupid.